It was her birthday dinner when I knew. Not suspected. Not doubted. Knew. Her name was Laura, my wife of 7 years. She used to call me her safe place. That was her phrase, the one she used in vows and Christmas cards and text messages with too many hearts. Now, watching her smile at her phone when she thought I was fixing more wine, I understood. She wasn't texting her sister. And that smile? That wasn't for me anymore. I am not the type to throw things. I am not the type to demand the truth through a slammed door. I believe that if you want to win, you do it on the quiet. So I refilled her glass, sang along when the server brought dessert with a candle, watched her lean across the table and say, "I'm so lucky to have you," and in that moment I stopped being hers. Laura worked as an event photographer. Weddings, mostly. Sometimes corporate parties. She liked the flexibility. I worked in the county library managing archives. I liked the order. Our lives used to complement each other that way. Her spontaneity, my structure. But now her schedule was looser than ever. More last-minute gigs. More nights she just needed to clear her head. I started watching patterns. Tuesday nights, 3-hour absence. Saturday mornings, long editing sessions in coffee shops. Phone always face down. Sudden guilt gifting. New watch for me, spontaneous weekend plans. A person who starts giving you things without being asked is often paying off a debt you haven't discovered yet. Her phone was easy. She wasn't as careful as she thought. On a rainy Thursday, she left it charging in the den. I synced the backup to an old iPad of mine we hadn't used in months. She never cleared the device list. The texts came in quietly. A name saved as M. Bland enough to avoid suspicion. But bland can't hide tone. M. You smelled like cinnamon and rain. I still taste you. Laura. You always know what to say. I miss you already. And then the one that shifted something deep in me. M. Does he suspect? Laura. No. He's still the same old Ben. Predictable. Safe. I read that line 3 times. Predictable. Safe. That was what she thought of me. That was how she justified this. I closed the iPad and smiled, because safe is not the same as weak. I didn't confront her that night, or the next. Instead, I began to build the space where this would end on my terms. First, I printed every text, just for myself. I wasn't going to drag this into court or ruin her career. I wasn't interested in public shame. I wanted something deeper. I wanted her to look me in the eye and understand, fully, that I had known all along, and that I had chosen exactly how she would be remembered, and how she would remember herself. Step 1 was watching. I paid attention to every interaction. When she lied, I nodded. When she kissed me absent-mindedly on her way out, I kissed her back. When she typed furiously on her phone late at night, I let her think I was asleep. The more free she felt, the more tangled she became. That is how you trap a liar. Not with confrontation, with patience. 2 weeks later, I followed her once. Not out of paranoia, for confirmation. I already knew the man was Michael, one of the grooms she had photographed 6 months ago. Married, older, a consultant with plenty of travel. I watched them meet at a small cabin rental just outside the city. Saw her run to him like a girl trying to chase her own youth. I didn't photograph them, didn't record them, because what mattered wasn't proof. It was timing. It was the story I would write. And when the story was ready to be told, she would find herself at the center of it, alone on the stage she built. That night I began drafting a letter. Not for Laura, for Michael's wife. But I didn't send it. Not yet. First I had to set the scene. Because the sweetest revenge isn't the one that lands fastest. It's the one that waits for the moment they finally think they've won. Laura liked to think of herself as a storyteller. She always said photography wasn't about light, it was about narrative. You have to catch the moments people won't admit to, she used to say. Now I smiled at the irony, because she was about to become the main character in a story no one would let her rewrite. First, I mapped the timeline of their affair. Date of first text, first photo, first cabin rental, frequency of contact. Then I cross-referenced that with Laura's public posts. her work calendar, her social media uploads. The pattern was perfect. The same days she posted black and white photos of elderly couples and wistful captions about the beauty of loyalty. She was in Michael's bed. I didn't judge that part, but I knew how to use it. Second, I started building the audience. See, I didn't want to send one explosive email to his wife and watch it all burn in private. That was too quick. I wanted Laura to be surrounded by the eyes she valued most when it happened, her sister, her two closest friends, the people whose admiration she used as a mirror. So I invited them, carefully, under the guise of planning a surprise dinner for Laura's upcoming birthday. I told her sister I wanted to celebrate Laura's hard work lately, that I wanted her to feel seen. The sister adored me. She helped gather the guest list. 10 people. Closed circle. Safe space. The perfect auditorium. Meanwhile, I mailed the letter. Not to Michael's house. That would risk Laura blaming me directly. No, I mailed it to Michael's wife at her office, a law firm downtown. A quiet, respectful envelope. No photos. No theatrics. Just the texts printed, organized. And a simple note. I do not write this to hurt you. I write it so that the person you trust does not rob you of your right to choose. I am not the victim, but you deserve not to be one either. That was all. Now I waited. The day of the dinner came fast. Laura was radiant. She always was in front of her inner circle, glowing with the power of curated vulnerability. She kissed me that morning and said, "You've been so sweet lately. I know I've been distant, you're being amazing." I told her, "You deserve amazing." And meant it. Because what she was about to experience would be unforgettable. The dinner was held at her friend Ivy's home, a rustic place with candles and a long oak table. Everyone arrived early. I brought the wine. Laura entered last, surprised and grinning. She hugged me, kissed my cheek in front of everyone. And I smiled, knowing it would be the last performance she'd give in this room. Midway through dinner, I stood, tapped my glass. Everyone quieted. "I just want to say," I began, "how proud I am of Laura." She looked at me, eyes shining. "She's taught me so much about the importance of honesty. About living with truth." A few guests nodded. Laura blinked, a tiny flicker of uncertainty. "And so tonight," I continued, "I wanted to give her, and all of you, a small gift." I pulled out an envelope, set it gently on the table in front of her. "This," I said softly, "is all the story Laura has been living. One I thought her closest friends deserved to see too. Because love should never hide." The room went still. Laura's hand hovered over the envelope. Her lips parted. "Ben," she whispered, voice cracking. I met her eyes. "Calm. Steady. No more stories," I said. I left the room then. Didn't need to stay. The pages would speak louder than any words I could say. Screenshots. Dates. Quotes. The full timeline of her double life. Not leaked to the internet. Not thrown in anger. Just given to the people whose respect she wore like armor. And as I walked to my car, I heard it. The low, rising voices from inside. A single name repeated, "Michael." A broken, gasped, "I can explain." I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just drove home. Because some truths don't need you to watch them land. They do the work themselves. At midnight, my phone buzzed. It was Laura. 12 missed calls. A single text. "How could you do this to me?" I stared at the screen. And for the first time since this began, I didn't feel like her safe place anymore. I felt like my own. After the dinner, she didn't come home. I knew she wouldn't. Her mask had shattered in a room full of mirrors, her sister, her friends, the people she used to curate her image for. There was no fixing that. And I had made sure of it. The next morning, I poured my coffee, fed the dog, and sat on the porch as if it were any other Sunday. At 7:12 a.m., her first email came in. "Please, please talk to me. You blindsided me. You humiliated me in front of everyone I love."
Sorry to interrupt your viewing experience, but we really need your support, namely a subscription to the channel, which can make it possible to hire a professional voice actor and make the best content for you.
"You don't have to destroy me like this." I didn't reply. At 8:29 a.m. "You must hate me so much. Please let me explain." At 9:51 a.m. "If you won't respond, at least tell me if you're going to file." I deserve to know what's coming. That one made me laugh short, bitter. I deserve to know. As if that was a currency she had honored. By noon, I knew from Ivy, her friend, that Laura was spiraling. She'd spent the night at a hotel. Half her friends had stopped responding. Her sister had told her not to call for a while. And Michael's wife? She had served him with separation papers that very morning. Clean. Cold. Surgical. Just the way I had hoped. But this wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about release. Mine. I began sorting the house that afternoon. Not angrily, methodically. There's a certain ceremony to reclaiming your space. You don't smash the photos. You take them down carefully. You don't throw away the clothes. You pack them neatly in boxes labeled only with dates. And when you clear the nightstand drawer where she used to keep her journals, the ones full of curated half-truths about love and growth, you pause. You read none of them. Because what matters now is forward, not autopsy. That evening, she appeared. I heard her car before I saw her, the too fast pull into the driveway, the slam of the door. I stayed in the kitchen. She knocked once, then let herself in with her key. Ben, she said, voice raw. Please. I didn't look up from my tea. You should leave. I can't, not without talking to you. I stood, finally meeting her eyes. I think you've done plenty of talking, I said quietly. She flinched. Ben, you've ruined my life. No, I corrected. I stopped protecting it. Her lip trembled. Her eyes filled. But the tears no longer moved me. They were the same ones she had weaponized so many times before. You can't just shut me out, she whispered. But she was wrong. I could. Because when you see someone clearly enough, you also see the door behind them. And mine had never looked so open. I handed her a manila envelope. Inside, the notarized petition for divorce. Filed. Simple. No demands. No request for the house or the car or her money. Just closure. Just space. She stared at it. I didn't think you'd be this cold. I nodded. That's because you never believed I could stop loving you. Her breath caught. And for one long moment, the only sound in the house was the clock ticking over the stove. I picked up my mug, took a slow sip. I think you should go now. She did. I changed the locks that night. Not out of spite. Out of peace. There are some thresholds that should only be crossed once. Later, I sat on the porch again. The air smelled of rain. My phone buzzed once more, another text from her. I wish I could take it back. I typed one reply. Only 3 words. I don't wish. Then I set the phone down, faced the dark sky, and felt something I hadn't in months. Light? Not from her. Not from anyone else. Just mine. Finally. The hardest part of revenge isn't the strike. It's what you choose to do with the silence after. It had been a month since I last saw her. The papers were filed. My locks were changed. The house, once noisy with her curated joy, was now blessedly, beautifully still. And for the first time in years, I wasn't playing the husband she needed me to be. I was just a man. And that was enough. She tried to write her way back in. Not literally, no grand email or blog post, but through the network of people she thought still belonged to her. Her sister texted me. She's really struggling, Ben. Says you blindsided her. Says she didn't know how bad things were. I replied with gratitude, but no explanations. Because I knew what Laura was doing. She was rebuilding her image one empathetic ear at a time. Victim. Confused spouse. Hurt woman caught in a mistake that wasn't really a mistake, just misplaced feelings. But not this time. I refused to speak her lines. Meanwhile, the rest of her circle had fractured. Ivy stopped responding to her completely. Her oldest friend, Megan, sent me a simple note. We never really saw her, did we? I didn't answer. Some truths don't need commentary. I changed my routine. Started eating breakfast at a small diner across town. Walked a different route with the dog. Took a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to try but never did because Laura thought it was too domestic. Each small shift felt like a thread pulled from the old web. And the more I moved through the world without her gravity, the more I realized. I had been carrying her weight far longer than I'd known. The texts kept coming. Shorter. Angrier. Then sadder. How can you be so cruel? I loved you. I miss you. I ignored each one. Not out of spite. Out of choice. Because that was the true revenge. Not blocking her. Not raging. Simply refusing to dance anymore. Then came the card. Handwritten. Delivered by courier. Inside. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I can't live with the thought of you hating me. Please, Ben, just talk to me once. Let me say goodbye properly. I read it twice. Felt nothing. And that was how I knew. I had already said goodbye. She just hadn't heard it yet. One quiet Saturday, Ivy called. I thought you should know, she said. Laura's been telling people you manipulated her. That you set her up. I smiled. Ivy, I said, she did all the writing. I just turned on the lights. She laughed, not cruelly, but with relief. Good, she said. I just wanted to hear it from you. I thanked her. And hung up. Because the people who matter know. And the ones who don't? They can stay blind. Revenge isn't a single blow. It's the absence you leave. The emptiness where their version of you used to stand. And as the weeks turned to months, I saw it happen. She stopped trying to text. Stopped trying to rewrite. Because I had refused the only thing she really wanted now. An audience. One afternoon, walking past the park where we once had picnicked, I saw her. Alone. On a bench. Phone in hand. Head down. I kept walking. Didn't hesitate. Didn't look back. Because I wasn't the ghost in her story anymore. She was. And that was sweeter than any revenge I could have planned. Some people want explosions. I chose erosion. Because when you leave someone with no story left to tell, that's the kind of silence they can't survive. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't show up in big moments or grand declarations. It arrives quietly in the space between breaths, in the absence of a weight you stop noticing until it's gone. That's where I was now. Free. I started saying yes to things I'd put off. Dinner invites. A hiking group. A weekend trip to Charleston. I stopped editing myself in conversations, stopped thinking, would she approve of this? Would she roll her eyes? Because now her voice was just that, a voice. Not a tether. In pottery class, I met Elise. She had kind eyes, a dry wit, and the kind of honesty that doesn't perform. We talked about books, about travel, about the ridiculousness of people who curate their whole lives for Instagram. One night, over coffee, she asked why I'd started pottery. I answered without hesitation. To make things that won't apologize for existing. She smiled, nodded like she understood. And maybe she did. Meanwhile, word about Laura kept drifting to me. Not from Ivy or Megan anymore, they'd gone silent toward her, tired of the drama. But her sister texted once. She's not doing well. She says everyone abandoned her. I know you won't answer, but I thought you should know. I read the message, then locked the phone. Because knowing wasn't my burden anymore. Letting her unravel was not cruelty. It was consequence. I ran into Michael once. At a bookstore of all places. He saw me first, froze like a man caught mid-crime. I simply nodded, walked past him. Because there was nothing left to say. He already lived the fallout. His wife gone. His reputation bruised. And me? I walk taller now. Not because I'd crushed them. Because I'd refused to be crushed. Elise and I started seeing more of each other. No rush. No heavy labels. Just presence. She once asked, softly, you seem like someone who's already lived a whole life. I told her I lived a version of one. Now I'm writing the real one. And that was enough. Weeks passed. Laura stopped texting altogether. I heard through quiet channels that she'd tried a new relationship. It fizzled fast. The thing about people like her, they thrive on the performance. But when no one claps anymore, they lose the script. And there's no curtain call for that. In the fall, I finally sold the house. Too many ghosts in its beams. I packed carefully, not with grief, but gratitude. Because that house had taught me two things. What a cage can feel like when dressed as comfort. How beautiful it is to leave a door open and walk through it alone. On my last night there, I left a single note taped inside a drawer Laura used to fill with her journals. It read, the things you thought I didn't know. I knew. And the thing you never understood? I let you write the ending yourself. Then I locked the door behind me. Smiling. Whole. Some revenge is loud. Some is public. But the one that lasts? It's when they look around and see you've built a life that no longer even requires their shadow. And that's where I stood now. Not angry. Not bitter. Just free. Moving out of the house didn't just feel like an end. It felt like a reclamation. Of space. Of story. Of breath. I moved to a smaller place on the east side, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. A space where every room would be built from choice, not compromise. Elise helped me unpack. She didn't ask about Laura. Not once. That was the first sign that this was different. She saw me as I was, not as the sum of the story that had happened to me. Weeks passed. The texts stopped. The whispers stopped. Life unfolded again, slower, simpler, steadier. And with every sunrise, Laura's presence dimmed. But there was one thing left. A tether I had to cut, not for her, for me. Her birthday approached. I knew because I still had the date saved in an old calendar. At first, I debated ignoring it. But that would leave the thread alive. And I wanted the cleanest cut. So I wrote one final message. Not out of anger. Out of truth. I sent it on the morning of her birthday. Subject line. All the things you thought I didn't know. Inside. Laura. This is not forgiveness. This is not cruelty. This is closure, mine, not yours. I knew. I saw. I chose to wait, not because I was weak, but because I believed some truths are most powerful when revealed by the person who tried to hide them. You did that. You wrote your own ending. And now? I no longer need to be in the audience. This is my final word. There will be no more replies. No more answers. No more shadow. I wish you all the peace you refused to find inside yourself. Then I archived the thread, deleted her contact, and that was it. I didn't check for a reply, didn't wait to see if the message was read, because some acts of release are not for the other person. They're for the person you finally became when you stopped orbiting someone else's gravity. Elise and I built a quiet rhythm. She never asked for the whole story. I told her pieces when I was ready. One night, she said, "You didn't burn it down. You walked away clean." I smiled. I didn't want ashes. I wanted air. And I had it now. Full lungs. Clear eyes. A life no longer paused. Months later, Ivy emailed me. Not with gossip. Just a short line. She's still trying to explain it all away. But no one listens anymore. I replied simply, "That's no longer my story." And it wasn't. I still have the note I left in the old house. The words meant for her. For the version of her that might one day find it. The things you thought I didn't know, I knew. And the thing you never understood. I let you write the ending yourself. I didn't need her to find it. I only needed to know it existed. Because that was the truth. That was the victory. Revenge is not about breaking the other person. It's about breaking the version of yourself that thought you had to hold them up. I had done that. And when I looked in the mirror now, I didn't see a man scorned. I saw a man free.
What do you think of the story? Write in the comments.